Is what I'm going to share with you now for the next 28 minutes. I would share with you how to connect with people. I just wrote a book. It came out about 3 weeks ago. It's entitled, Everyone Communicates, Few Connect. It's very true, isn't it? Everybody talks. But haven't you seen people when they talked, nobody was home? Haven't there been times when you've been listening to somebody and just wanted to raise your hand and tell them it's okay, they can quit? You're all too young for this. Every one of you are too young, but when I was a kid, they had a program on TV called The Gong Show. And the Gong Show was just simply when you talked and nobody wanted to hear anymore, they just got a big mallet and they just gonged you. I mean, I've just said, dear God, we need a gong in every church. In fact, when I did the book, Everyone Communicates, Few Connect, I put it on my blog last September and released a chapter each week. I'd put a chapter on, release it, and then take it off, put the next chapter on. For the 10 weeks, over 100,000 people read the book with me on the blog, and I asked them to come back and talk to me. I said, as you read the book, tell me, you know, give me a good story, give me a better quote, help me improve the book. And they started improving the book literally by the hundreds and then the thousands, and we literally changed 7 things in each chapter. I mean, we rewrote the book, and it's when I discovered none of us is as smart as all of us. And some of my best thinking has been done by others. I told them I'd give them credit. I literally put their pictures on the cover of the book, put their names on the inside, the pictures on the inside, literally hundreds of people. Told them I'd give them credit. I didn't tell them I'd give them royalties. Jesus was the great connector. If anybody ought to know how to connect, it ought to be his children. Yet to be honest with you, I find some of them not even close. Not even close. Let me define connecting. Connecting is the ability to relate to and identify with people in such a way that it increases your influence with them. The ability to identify with and relate to people in such a way that it increases your influence with them. When we do it right, our increased influences, what did Jesus say? He wanted us to be salt. He wanted us to be light. He wanted us to connect in such a way to fulfill the Great Commission that everywhere we went, we could draw people unto him. I want to give you 3 very simple connecting thoughts tonight. These thoughts are going to be applied to your spiritual life. These thoughts could be applied to your business life. These thoughts could be applied to your family life. Thought number 1 about connecting. Very simple. Connecting is all about others. That's the grand foundation and principle of connecting. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's all about others. I was in my 20s in Dayton, Ohio, and I didn't understand this. I was a pastor. And I thought connecting as a leader was getting everybody to buy into my vision, to get to buy into the things that I loved and the principles that I held true. And I was constantly working hard on getting people to buy into me and to buy into everything around. And I was constantly saying, come on the team, here, don't you want to join this? Here's where we're going. Don't you want to get on the train? When I was in my 20s in Dayton, Ohio, I heard a man say, if you will help people first get what they want, they will help you get everything that you want. It literally changed my life. It was a eureka moment for me because at that time I realized that I was approaching connecting the wrong way. I was trying to get people to come where I was and connect with me. And so many times I see leaders, basically leaders who are up on the mountain and they're down and they're looking at the people down there and they're saying, hey folks, come on up. Come on up, I'm up here. Come on, let's go. You've heard the expression, it's lonely at the top. A leader never said that. If you're at the top all alone, nobody's following you. If you're at the top all alone, you're not a leader, you're a hiker. And in my early years, I was trying to get people to come to the top. I was trying to keep people to join the team. I was trying to get people to get on the train. I was trying to, come on. And I did not understand that I have to get off the top. I have to go find the people. I've got to go where they are. And when I find where they are, then, hey, guess what I can do? I can help them go to the top together. That's why leaders never cross the finish line first. People who cross the finish line first are running alone. You see, leaders never cross the finish line first because when they come across, they're bringing people with them. Connecting is all about others. Now, as I look back at my early ministry, I know why I didn't understand that. I was immature. I was immature, and immature people don't think of others first, do they, huh? They're immature because they think of themselves first. That's what makes them immature. I know you're saying, well, let them get a little older. They'll grow up and they'll mature. Not necessarily. Maturity doesn't always accompany age. Many times age comes alone. I shared with you we have 5 granddaughters. When we lived in Atlanta, our 2 oldest granddaughters at that time, Hannah and Maddie, were 5. At that time, Maddie and her family lived on the West Coast out in California, and we were in Atlanta, so the cousins didn't get to see each other a lot. When the cousins got together, they always stayed at our house. And every morning when Hannah and Maddie, these cousins, these 5-year-old cousins were together, they'd come down into the living room in the morning, and they call me Papa. That's my name. They call me Papa. They call Margaret Mimi. In fact, before the first grandchild was born, Margaret looked at me and said, what are the grandbabies going to call us? I said, I have no clue. I didn't even think about it. Well, she said, I've been thinking about them. I want them to call me Mimi. I said, I like that. But she said, I don't want them to call you Pee-Pee. I said, I'll buy that too. So they call me Papa. When they come down every morning, they had a list for me because, you see, Hannah and Maddie thought it was God created Papa to serve them. Oh, yeah, they're 5. And they'd come down and they'd say, Papa, we want to do this. And they would give me the list. And, you know, I'd just hang with them and whatever they said. That's what I guess I think that's my responsibility to spoil the grandchildren. After all, that's what grandparents are for. And so we'd have our list and we'd go through our day. I promise you on that list every day, because we lived on a golf course, is they wanted to get in the golf cart and they wanted to ride around the golf course. They loved to do that. We'd go to the pond, see the ducks, you know, the whole deal. Now they had Hannah's younger brother at the time. John was 2. Sometimes they let John go with me, sometimes they didn't. That was Hannah and Maddie's total decision. John was named after me. He gets the inheritance. Anyway. Every afternoon about 2, Hannah and Maddie, sometimes John would get in the golf cart. We'd go down to the end of the driveway. Before we got to the end of the driveway, it happened every time. Trust me, every time. Before we got to the end of the driveway, Hannah and Maddie say, Papa, we're hungry. We need a snack. Which would mean the first place we'd go at the snack shop between the 9th and 10th hole. We'd go there. We all sat down. We ordered the very same thing. Hot dog with ketchup, potato chips, candy bar, ice cream, Diet Coke. I know what you're thinking. I know exactly. You're saying, that's not a very healthy diet. I know that. I don't care. I'm a grandparent. Trust me, I fed my kids healthy stuff. It doesn't help. It doesn't help. There was only one rule, and that is they couldn't tell. They couldn't tell the parents because parents are paranoid about some of those things. So that was our secret. Every evening during dinner time, the kids weren't hungry. The parents could never figure it out. Hannah and Maddie would look at me, they'd wink, give me a thumbs up. Now they're 5 years old. Every day they had an agenda for me. It was all about them. It was not one time did Hannah and Maddie come down and say, Papa, we've been thinking. You've done so much for us. What could we do for you? You see, it doesn't enter a 5-year-old mind that they should do something for someone else. It's okay when you're 5. It's sad when you're 35 and 45 and 55 and you haven't figured out it's not about you. The first very simple principle of connecting is it's all about others. Leaders understand that the day they take up the mantle of leadership, they give up the right to think of themselves first. Leaders understand that the day that they become leaders, no longer do they live for themselves. If Jesus were here and he was talking about leadership tonight, he would tell you and me that leadership is servanthood. That's what it is. It's not about titles, it's about towels. And only the secure can stoop. Only the secure. Insecure people cannot do that. It's all about others. I followed the founding pastor into San Diego. Great man, been there for 27 years, done a terrific work. In fact, he's still alive today in his 90s, a precious, godly man. The church adored him, they loved him. He was getting a little bit out of energy, and so I came in and had the privilege of trying to serve him in the congregation for the next several years. I had been there only a few months, and I looked at a lady named Sue, whose husband's name was Harry, and I noticed that Harry hadn't been to church for the last couple of weeks, and I said, Sue, I'm missing Harry. Is he okay? And she said, well, he's okay, but he's having a little problem with you. I said, what's the problem? Well, he loved Pastor Butcher, and you're new, and he's feeling guilty because he just really, Pastor Butcher was everything to him, and he's just missing him, and he's just kind of staying away right now, trying to figure it all out. I said, I understand. I said, would he be willing to talk to me? She said, well, I'll ask him. Sure enough, he was. The next week, Harry and I are sitting together in my office. I said, I know you love Pastor Butcher, Harry. Tell me about it, would you please? Tell me all the reason you loved him. I want to listen. For the next 40 minutes, that dear, precious man cried as he talked about the fact that Pastor Butcher had buried his parents, married his kids, baptized the family, talked about the weddings, talked about all the incredible things that a pastor gets to do with people. And after about 40 minutes, he's crying, I'm crying. I said, Harry, I understand. I said, I think I need to share something with you. I give you permission, Harry, to always love Pastor Butcher more than me. To be honest with you, I could never take his place. He should be number one in your life. I shouldn't be number one. I'm not sure I should even be number two, but I do know this. Never feel guilty about letting him be number one. He is your pastor. He was your pastor. Always keep him where he is. Always love him. I said, just give him all of your love. Harry, you got my permission. Don't ever feel guilty about it. You should always love him first. Now I said, Harry, I do have a request for you. If after you get done loving Pastor Butcher first, if you have any love left over, maybe just a little bit, you may not have it, I don't know, but if you have any left over, could you just throw it my way? He said, you're kidding. I said, I'm not kidding at all. You should love him first. He should be always number one. Harry started coming back to church. I kid you not, he lived for 7 more years, and as I'd be out on the campus, there was never a month would go by I'd be talking to somebody. He kind of was a practical joker. He'd like to sneak up on me. He'd come in behind me when I wasn't looking, and he'd kind of put his arm around me and say, guess who? And I'd say, it's Harry, it's Harry. It's Harry. He said, I just want to come and give you a hug and tell you that I had just a little love. Just a little love left over. Can I tell you something? There is nothing worse in this world than an insecure leader who somehow thinks that the world should worship him. Get a life. Understand, it is not about you. Connecting is all about others. Number 2, connecting requires energy. One of the reasons that we do not connect as much as we could or should is because there's a tremendous requirement of energy that we have to continually expend to connect. Can I tell you the only difference between a great dating life and an average marriage is you worked harder when you were dating. Of course you did. Every day you got up and said, how can I please her? What could I do for her? What could I buy for her? Is there something I could do that would add value to her? Every day you got up and it was all about the other person. The day you get married, you say, oh my God, how are you going to meet my needs? My first church was in southern Indiana. It was Hillham, little church, little community, real little. First Sunday, there were 3 people. 2 of them were Margaret and me. Old lady by the name of Maud who lived beside the church, Maud, Margaret, me, that was it, 3 of us. I knew nothing about leadership back then. If I'd known anything about leadership, I'd have voted on everything I wanted to see passed. Thought about voting, but I wasn't sure where my wife Margaret stood on a couple of issues. Could see myself losing 2-1 the first Sunday. Not a good way to start. Church over 100 years old, roof sagged, walls bowed. I mean, it was poor, rural farming community. But I had the time of my life. I loved those people. They loved me. We went from 3 to 300. We moved to a new location, bought 5 acres of ground, built a little church there that still is there today. 25 years later, they called me, and they wanted to know if I'd come back for the 25th anniversary. I hadn't been there for 22 years. They were a little bit intimidated. It was during the Promise Keepers movement, and I was doing a lot of stuff for Promise Keepers, and they knew that I was probably kind of doing pretty good in my life, and they wanted to know if I would come back. I said, I'd love to come back, and they got excited, hung up, and called me back 5 minutes later and said, how much will it cost? I said, I'll come back for free. I'll pay my expenses. My kids have never been there. I want to come. They were excited. I was excited. I hung up. Margaret looked at me and said, this will be interesting, John. She says, I can hardly wait to see you after 25 years where your life has gone crazy. And those people, they're still in Hillham. Hello? Their idea of progress is moving backwards slowly. Still photos move on them. She said, I can hardly wait to see how you're going to connect with them. And then I thought, my goodness, how am I going to? Now, what is connecting requires energy. So I began to work on it. Finally, the day arrived, took the kids, we flew. And here's what I did. Before we left, I called my friend Ken Jackson in Hillham. I said, Ken, have you had a recent pictorial directory of the church? He said, yes. I said, I'm going to meet you in West Baden, bring it to the parking lot. I want to see it for 30 minutes. I want to see what those people look like today. I want to put the name with the age, because I can tell you right now, some of those people were old. He came, showed me the pictorial directory, and I determined to make them feel special. I said, when I come back, I'll come back a day early if we can just meet with the people that were there when I was there. I mean, I want a members-only club meeting, no one else allowed but you. I said, can you make sure no one gets in but you? Oh, they said, that'd be no problem. We won't have a problem keeping people out. And the way they said it, I thought they will have no problem keeping people out. I got the pictorial directory, so I had the names. I went down to the basement of the church where they had a potluck waiting for me, and I called them all by name. We started hugging. And then I said, I brought something with you, and I went over to a big box I brought, and I started bringing out the memorabilia. I said, Shirley, come up here. I said, this was the sermon I preached the day you found Christ. I just want to give that to you. And Ab, come over here. Can I show you? This is the picture of the pond out there in Hillham where I baptized you. You were the first person I baptized. And here's a picture of it, signed it on the back. And for the next 55 minutes to an hour, we wept and cried and we passed out all that stuff. The Sunday morning service was coming. They said it was going to last from 10 to noon. They said they're going to sing one song, take an offering, and wanted me to preach for an hour and 45 minutes. They said, do you mind if we video? I said, no problem at all, you can video. I'm getting ready to preach. I look on the front seat, and there's a guy with a big honking camera. Now, when I said they could video, I assumed kind of like at a distance, tripods. He was there. And when I got up, he got up. He got in front of me. And for the next hour and 40 minutes, wherever I went, man, I mean, I never saw the audience, but I saw the camera. I mean, the camera was right there the whole deal. Only in Hillham, folks, only in Hillham. My message was 10 things I learned at Hillham. 10 lessons I learned, and I talked about how the fact that what they had taught me helped me in my life and my ministry. And my last point was, if you feel called to preach and you graduate from seminary or Bible college, it ought to be a requirement that you spend 1 year in Hillham. Because if you do, you'll get started off right. We wept, we cried. I got back on the plane. Margaret took my hand, reached over and gave me a kiss on the cheek and said, John, you connected. It requires energy. Look at the inconvenience of Jesus in connecting with us. Constantly going to where we were, talking in a language that we understood. The energy that is required to connect with people is worth the price you pay once you understand. I've got one more connecting principle. Before I give it to you, let me ask you a question. Are you learning something? Yes. Okay, look at your person beside you and tell them you're learning something. Go ahead and tell them that. Look right back at them and say, not near enough yet. You're not connecting with me yet. The third point that I want to make, connectors find common ground. What connectors understand is very simple. What they understand is this, that to be effective, they have to go where the people are and know what the people know and participate in where the people are and what they're doing. They understand that they have to find common ground. Now that's huge. I wish I had time to talk to you about the different avenues that I try to take to find common ground, but just let me say this very, very simply. The great connectors, they find common ground, and then they lift the person to higher ground. Yeah. But you find common ground first. You can't lift a person to higher ground until you get where they are. But the moment that you and I get where they are and we connect with them and we get on the common ground, then what happens? Then we're able to take them to higher ground. And what I mean by higher ground is that we have taken enough time to know them so well that we learn how to lift and encourage them and to put them in a position where they sense that we look up to them, that we respect them, that we value them. So I want to kind of close in the last 5.5 minutes by talking to you about common ground. You see, in the Christian community, I walk out here today and you're so kind to me and we're brothers and sisters in Christ, and can I tell you, I walk out on common ground with you, amen? And it's all in relationships. The key word in the Christian community is relationships. The blood of Jesus Christ, we're all connected, one brothers and sisters in Christ. Isn't it wonderful? That's the key word in the Christian community, but it's not in the community that I spend 90% of my time with anymore, the business community. You see, my life changed 12 years ago when I was with my publisher, and they just finished doing some research and found out that 65% of my books were read by the secular business market. I was shocked. I never had an idea, didn't plan it, didn't think it. At the moment they told me that, I sensed the Spirit of God saying, John, your ministry now must be to people whose church do not even have the church on their radar screen. get to the secular community. I had to make some major adjustments in my life, and I can tell you it was huge. Can you imagine all of the illustrations that I used as a pastor? I had to can. Of course, I'm going to secular community. They don't connect, they don't relate. You see, in the secular community, relationship isn't the common ground. It is in the Christian community. In the secular community, the common ground is respect. And you don't get a relationship with them until they respect you. So I had to figure out, how can I get their respect? How can I add value to them? How can I teach leadership to them? How can I cross that? I never will forget, I was speaking to the largest lumber broker company in the world, Kiowa Island, just senior vice president. It's not a big crowd, maybe 40 or 50 of the major leaders of that company. And I taught them leadership all day, and at the end of the day, one of the senior VPs raised his hand and said, "John, your leadership stuff's different than what we're used to hearing. It's kind of fresh. I've not kind of heard this before." He said, "Do you mind me asking, where do you get your leadership material?" I looked at him and smiled and said, "You don't want to know." He said, "I want to know." I said, "Trust me, you don't want to know." "No," he said, "I want to know." I said, "Trust me, don't ask me. Put your hands down. You do not want to know." Every hand is now up. "Where do you get your leadership material?" I finally said, "Okay, you pressed me, you ask it. I told you didn't want to know. Everything I know about leadership, I learned from the Bible." And they all went, "Oh." I said, "I told you didn't want to know. But since you asked, I told you, and I'll be at the cocktail hour at 6:30. If you got any questions about God, I'll just hang in the corner. Come and see me." The line never stopped. And all of a sudden I understood one of the greatest days of my life was when I realized I could take a biblical principle, not put a verse on it, but teach the principle, and God would speak to hearts. Now, so I continually seek for common ground. One last quick story on finding common ground. I won't give you the name of the company nor the name of the CEO because you know both of them, but it would be one of the top 50 companies in America. I got an email from his daughter that said, "My dad is far away from God." She is a believer, but he reads your books. "I would like to give him, for his Christmas present, a lunch with you. Would you mind doing that?" We made the arrangements. I went and had lunch with him. I liked him a lot. What a wonderful guy. Way from God, way far from God. What a wonderful guy. He said, "I want you to come and speak for my company." So we started that little journey. I'd come in and speak for his company, the international company. They'd bring in the people, and I'd talk to them. And every time he'd say, "John, what do I need to do for you?" I said, "Nothing. I'm just hanging with you." After the second year, he couldn't handle it anymore. I'd just spoken to his senior VPs around the world, and he said, "Come on up to my office. We'll have lunch in my office." So I went into his office, and he closed the door, and he looked at me. He said, "What do you want?" I said, "What do you mean, what do I want?" He said, "What do you want?" I said, "Well, I don't want anything." He said, "Oh yeah, you want something. Everybody wants something from me. What do you want?" I said, "Well, I think you ought to have one friend in life that doesn't want anything from you. I don't need anything from you. I just want to be your friend. When you see me, I just want to think my name's John and I'm your friend, and I don't want anything." He says, "You're kidding me." I said, "No." I'll call him Ralph. His name wasn't Ralph, but I said, "Ralph, I'm hoping that I'll hang with you long enough and help you long enough and add value to you long enough that someday you won't be able to stand it. And you'll ask me about my faith. But I said, I want to tell you something. You're going to have to beg for it." Well, he said, "Oh, no. Typical CEO. He said, "Tell me now. Tell me, I'm ready to listen. Tell me, here, tell me about your faith." I said, No, I'm not telling you about my faith." I said, "You're not ready?" No. Let's eat. Come on, let's have lunch. No. Well, he said, "When are you going to tell me about it?" I said, "Not now. It'll be a while." "You're not ready." "Well, I'm ready." "How do you know I'm not ready?" "I'm asking you. Trust me. You're not ready. Let's eat." So we ate. For the next year and a half, I saw him probably on the average of every other month. And no matter what we were doing, playing golf or what it was, he'd say, John, hey, I'm ready. I'm ready. I said, no, you aren't. No, you're not ready. Hit the ball, hit the ball. One day he called me. Can you grab lunch with me tomorrow? I really need to see you. Sure. Went down to have lunch with him. He said, my wife's got cancer. It's not good. Could you tell both of us about your faith? I said, you're getting close. Would I have an opportunity to meet with you and your wife? Yeah. We met. I shared my faith. They were beautifully, beautifully brought into the family of God. 6 months later, we're having lunch, and he was so proud. Now, you got to understand, this is a huge company, a lot on the line. He said, John, the best day I've ever had with my board. Best day? What happened? Today I told them I was a Christian. Father, I would ask that you would help us to be wise, prayerful, strategic in connecting with people, because eternity hangs in the balance. Amen. God bless.
Let's give it up for Dr. John Maxwell, leadership man.